I went to see one of the former Yakuza, then called Watanabe-san. But now he is a monk and gets offended when he is called that.
私はどうぞ、私は商船で結構ですね。
Address me as Shusen, please, because I am a Buddhist priest.
ですからそれで結構です。
That's my Buddhist name.
Xiaosen is now often interviewed about his criminal past.
これ一緒に写ってる人間ね。
That's my brother.
この
We were both hitmen in a gang.
死んじゃいました。
He's dead now.
ね、
And here, look,
これは入れ墨をこう
this is me just starting to do tattoos.
背中もね。
On the back,
恋をやっぱり大体金太郎という。
it is the Japanese fairy tale hero, Kintaro, on the back.
登っていくというね。
He's hugging a carp that is going against the river current.
極道に転
Ever since I can remember, ever since I was a kid, I've had this attitude toward the Yakuza,
憧れっていうのがあったんですね。
toward these organizations, that it's cool.
先に右翼団体にこう入っていったの。
I wanted to go there, to be as cool as them,
こ
to join them.
うやっぱりなんていうのかね、この暴力
At some point, it just became an obsession of mine.
全てだなということでね。例えば喧嘩で誰かを
And because I was a pretty good fighter,
叩きのめせばやっぱり
I could solve my problems with my fists,
だから自然と
with force. Ever since primary school,
するようなものっていうのはまあ
my path had to lead there one way or another.
私はまあ右翼団体から入っていったんですけども、まあそこは任侠系
When I was a kid, I noticed that if you punch someone in the face,
ヤクザ
they started to respect you.
親分だった人が会長だった人
And when you have no education,
これ上げられて
no money, and your family is poor, you really want to be respected for something, at least.
そこの本部にこう、東京は江東区で生まれまし
I was born in Tokyo, in the Koto district.
た。下町で生まれまして、そこで大体まあ幼稚
It was the turbulent period of the 1960s.
やはり東京で
There were a lot of factories and dormitories in the city.
まあここからも比較的近い。
My dad worked part-time here and there,
当時ですから
collecting and removing trash.
こう町工場とか本当にこう
There was no money back then.
多い時代で、私は川のそばにいてね
Our whole dwelling was the size of 4 tatami.
まあそこで、まあ、父親は当時
It was very hard.
運転手をしながらただね逆に何か中
At
学
some point, my dad went broke, and we had to sell the house.
校を一つ子供
We had to move to an even less prosperous neighborhood north of the town.
そういうことありましたね。まあ悔しい思いもしましたね。
There I went to secondary school,
ところからやっぱり強くなりたくて
and at the age of 14, I signed up for judo.
それで今度私は
I was better at fighting than learning,
高等の方で失敗しました
so I slowly went down a crooked path.
ですね。茨城県、引っ越ししましてで
Slipped in my studies, started drinking, smoking.
今度中学
We formed a sort of little gang, and I became their bancho.
でま
I mean the leader,
あとか結構まあ
because I was a good fighter. So I started solving some of my boys' problems,
小学校2年生ぐらいの
told them who we can attack and who is better to be left alone. Everybody listened to me.
そこからまあほとんどまあいろいろ
There were a lot of violent incidents involving me back then.
右翼です
We used to beat up communists or just go out and fight someone.
ですけどね。いろいろこう私は暴力事件とかいろんな
Often we used guns.
事件を起こしまして10代の頃っていうのはほとん
In
ど
general, I did all kinds of things.
判別所から
At that age, you don't think about much.
また小
You just do all kinds of dirty stuff.
今度まあ
Teenagers like that were called special back then.
まあ札付きの悪い
I was as problem boy as possible.
The initiation to the Yakuza is a real ritual. It's called Sakazuki.
友としてじゃあ
During the Sakazuki,
例えばですよ
there is a special person,
だから
the bancha kunin,
日本でこう
who takes the beautiful sake bowls,
お酒をこうバ
then with a very graceful and distinct gesture,
つけてこう
shakes the sake in it and pours it. This is an ancient ritual. It is also used in Shintoism. Sake is not just alcohol. It is a drink that has great ritual significance in our culture. And if you take this drink, if you drink it, you don't just recognize the other person as a boss. You recognize yourself as a subordinate. It's oyabun, kobun, father and son. This is much more serious.
Here's a unique shot for you guys. The Sakazuki of a new leader of that very Yamaguchi Gumi. And for the first time in history, a woman becomes the leader of the clan. And other Yakuza swear an allegiance to her. The same Banchakunin pours sake. First, the new leader drinks, and then her subordinates.
4代目山口組竹中組長が誕生した。
This is Fumiko Taoka, the widow of the legendary Kazuo. When he died of a heart attack, his closest associates were in prison, and there was no one to choose as the new Kumicho. So the Yakuza temporarily appointed her, and those 3 years of her reign were the pinnacle of Yamaguchi Gumi.
The Yakuza separate legal and illegal businesses. They have a lot of regular companies. For example, I had a real estate office. Credit institutions, adult establishments, construction companies, rentals, and many other things where the Yakuza invested money and ran a variety of businesses. In such firms, only clean people with no history of arrests or police records were placed as directors. And there was a lot of illegal business. For example, blackmail or debt collection. Drug trafficking was strictly forbidden then. In the organization I belonged to, drugs were taboo. Of course, a lot of time has passed, and it is strange to talk about it now, I guess. But back then, all Yakuza groups were divided into those who dealt with drugs and those who hated them. Whether it was marijuana or some kind of psychotropic stimulants. Of course, as Yakuza, we did everything that brings in money. Gambling, casinos, for example. We organized betting on popular sports, whether it was baseball, horse racing, bicycle racing, and many others. Recruited customers who were willing to bet large sums of money. In general, anything that was suitable for making money. There were people who held brothels. They held their own as well as provided protection to other similar establishments, or places where they just sold alcohol. We gave them protection for a certain amount of money. It could be 300,000 yen or more a month. I got caught when I was almost 20 years old. There was a bad construction company at the time run by a local boss. Me and my brothers decided to attack it. I went to their place, but the boss wouldn't come out to me. So I decided to teach him a lesson. I was going to teach him some manners. So I took 2 buckets and filled them to the brim with shit. I also took some dynamite, put it in those buckets, and duct taped it all up. I also found a chicken, which I dipped whole with its head in feces, and threw it all together inside the construction company. A chicken covered in feces was running around the office, and then there was an explosion. After that, the firm didn't work for another 10 days. For this prank, they decided to send me to a juvenile correctional facility. And after I got out of there, they took me into the Yakuza. This clan based in Kansai and headquartered in Kobe City, is called Yamaguchi Gumi. When I got out of prison again, Kumicho Yamaguchi Gumi, Masaisa Takenaka, had just been killed. And a huge gangster war broke out, which would later be called the Yamaichi War. And I found myself in charge of one of the Yamaguchi Gumi's fiercest fighting units. Out of the fire and into the frying pan, from prison to mafia war.
The Mafia War began when the same Fumiko Taoka decided to return to power to the men after all, and they couldn't share it. A daring Ichiwakai gang broke away from the Yamaguchi Gumi, and so began what was later called Yamaichi War or the Osaka Mafia War. Probably the biggest gang war in history. It lasted 4 years.
The Yakuza War began after the death of the third Kumicho Yamaguchi Gumi. The man who was elected as the new Kumicho was not recognized by everyone, and those who didn't recognize him made an attempt on his life, killing him and his 4 Wakagashira, that is, his senior assistants. And so the war broke out. I was a hitman. My job was to find information on the leaders of the rival group. Most of the time, I just had a picture and used it to find the residential address and other locations in the city where the targets might be. In simple terms, I was gathering information and getting ready to kill a certain person. It happened a lot of times. Quitting the Yakuza is not like quitting one's job. It's not like saying, "I quit," and getting a "thank you for your work" response. When you say you're quitting the Yakuza, they think it's total nonsense. After being in the Yakuza for a long time and getting a lot of things, you have to pay a huge compensation when you leave. The exit procedure is called katagi. Of course, even now, there are quite a few people who cut their finger when quitting the Yakuza. But in most clans, this is no longer necessary. Very often, Yakuza have large debts to the boss. 5 million, 10 million, 20 million yen. It takes a lot of money to maintain the organization, and the debts only grow. You have to borrow from some to pay others. So there's no getting away with a pinky. Now the Yakuza with debts are like zombie companies or pyramid schemes, trying to get something out of it, make money to reduce the debt. So if you want out, you don't have to cut your finger. Just bring a box of money. Leave the money and go. They say that's pretty much the way it is now. And since they can't get the money back, all you have to do is run. I was lucky that I didn't have any debts. Whether you gave up your pinky or not, you can't leave the Yakuza with the money. They'll tell you, what you have, you earned on the name of the clan, so first give back everything you've got. They'll take away at least all of your sources of income. And when the others find out that you're no longer in the clan, no longer protected, your own brothers will swoop down to take everything else too. So a finger is the least you can lose. Of course, the Yakuza were bandits. We had fights and shootings and blackmail and stuff like that. People couldn't help but be afraid of us. But on the other hand, everybody knew that the Yakuza were always for justice. If you don't get your debt back, the Yakuza will help you get it back. If you're bullied, if someone oppresses you, and you have no one to turn to, the Yakuza will always help you. That's why people were afraid of us. But they respected us too. Yes, things began to change. A special decree was issued to put an end to the Yakuza. It became forbidden to have relations with the Yakuza. The Yakuza were called the absolute evil. And even if you just give the Yakuza money, not extortion, but just a loan, for example, you can go to prison for that now. There was such pressure that the Yakuza, even former Yakuza, are now deprived of their normal human rights. Gradually, the era of the Yakuza came to an end, and they became ordinary scoundrels in people's eyes. In the old Yakuza movies, you can see that they fought with katanas, but in reality, they hardly ever used them, unless they kept them at home and occasionally used them. If they did use edged weapons, they used small ones, such small knives that you could take and stab into the body like that. Everyone talked about the samurai, about firmness of spirit, order. As if, the Yakuza had Bushido. But I can't say that the real Yakuza world is so beautiful. If you only think about the rules and doing the right thing, you can't make a living on it. Of course, they did a lot of different things, but there were rules about not raising your hand against women and children, and also not getting involved with the elderly. The Yakuza had their own prohibitions. No matter how useless, lazy, or indecisive a person was, the Yakuza always tried to give them a way out. The Yakuza world used to be like this. But the Yakuza has one religion, the boss, and his orders. No spirituality or Buddhism is needed there. After all, acknowledging the existence of a god is in itself like cheating on the boss. Simply put, the guys in the Yakuza are told, whose man are you, man? An order must always be obeyed. The Yakuza has a clear hierarchy system. There is a clear line of hierarchy, and you live in that hierarchy. And if you talk too much about spirituality, goodbye.